We're focused on education now and taking a deeper look at legislation at reforming it. Let's start with money. Is New Mexico's formula to fund, Tom Garrity, education, is it equitable? That's an interesting word when you think about the money in education here.
It is. I mean, and you have two different issues. You know, how do you fix the system, which everybody's trying to do right now in Santa Fe in their own unique way, and then how do you fund the system? You know, I think the funding of the system is adequate. Whether it's the best system around, you know, who's to say? But you know, it seems to be, since other states are using it as a model, that the funding formula is a good model. You know, the question is how, you know, what else? You know, and I think that's, you know, where a lot of the debate is focusing now in Santa Fe is that people want to be able to focus on, you know, this administration wants to focus on programs, and you know, saying that programs are the key. AKA, it's code for saying we want to divert the funding system and have the money spent the way we want to have it spent. So you know, and it really comes down to the fundamental question of, do you support teachers? I think that's what it really comes down to. Because when you look at teachers and the role that teachers play in the classroom, not just an instructor, but the counselor, you know, they're having so many different roles. Sometimes taking some of the role of a parent because parents have been absent from that process. That's really where, you know, supporting teachers, and you know, that's where the funding formula goes. You have some school districts and some, you know, different legislators who want to be able to have a focus on administration, and the fact that, you know, you have so many things focused on administration. You have in Albuquerque Public Schools more raises for administration than for teachers. I think there's something wrong with that.
Right. Let me stay with you on this. I think you just walked into what you do every day at your shop, and that is to take the pulse of perceptions. I'm curious what, in your research, the perception is of teachers here. Are teachers supported in a way by the general public that would justify those kind of raises you're talking about?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when it comes to credibility of, you know, teachers and trust of teaching as a profession, it's through the roof.
Seriously?
When you focus on administration, not a whole lot of trust. It's that same kind of dichotomy that we see. You know, people, you know, love their teacher, but they hate the school district. They love their counselor, but the city council probably not so much. School board, they don't know who it is.
That trust deficit he's talking about, Senator, is incredible, isn't it?
But you know, teachers themselves really feel under the gun now. They really feel under attack, in spite of the fact that parents like them, students like them, the general public likes them. They feel that education has been underfunded, and they have been demoralized over the past couple of years by efforts to privatize, and they are upset because public schools, to them and to many parents, are the basic institution of a democratic, with a small d, a democratic society. And if you are undermining them, defunding them, then that has real effects on the whole society.
Let me stick with you there with the infamous House Bill 3. All the education bills seem to be House Bill 3 when they start off, but
they are
appropriating $2.6 billion for public education, working its way through right now, and it's going to be an incredible fight. Do we have the stomach for a nut that big, for a number that big? Can that number survive through this process when you're talking about education here?
Well, education actually now is consuming a smaller proportion of the budget than it has in the past. I remember when I came to the Senate in 1997, it was, I think, 53% of the general fund. It is now down to something like 46, 47 maybe. So it's less. And, you know, that's the question. Are we pumping enough money into the funding formula? I don't think there's any argument. New Mexico was way out in front with establishing an equitable funding formula early on during the 1960s and 70s. We were the first to do it, and the rest of the country copied it. But then it turned out we weren't pumping enough money into the funding formula.
Right. Speaking of, Jamie, speaking of not pumping enough money into education, we have come into a bit of a roadblock here with how we receive federal funding, for these initiatives as well, because it turns out we weren't spending enough money to make this work. And now we have this other situation where we have to appropriate money now just so we can be in compliance with the feds. Isn't that the strangest thing in the world? How can we not spend enough money on education here and get dinged for it?
Well, it's typical of what happens when the federal government and the Department of Education sort of gets involved with a lot of heavy national standards and this forcing these down the throats of states. I mean, I think that No Child Left Behind is an example of something that wasn't completely funded and received, in my view, even though it was my president that was the champion behind it, and so was Ted Kennedy, I guess.
Kennedy, yeah.
But lessons were learned about how those sort of things need to be fixed over time. And I think that's one of the lessons I think that's come out of this.
Interesting. John, your thought here on this, and I want to spin to some actual bills that are up there. I want to get your thoughts on this early. In the overall, in this session, your sense of where education is headed. There's a lot of noise, a lot of Durham Stram, but what's poking out there to you that's going to have a chance here? Is the constitutional amendment going to have a chance? What's going to really get out there?
I think the constitutional amendment, which for the viewers, is the idea of increasing the allocation from the land grant permanent fund, at least for a period of time, is probably the best shot, because I do think that there is a fair degree of ideological difference between Governor Martinez and the Democrats in the legislature. I mean, we do have a very equitable formula when you compare it to a property tax system where you have a lot of inequities in other states where their school system is based on property taxes. But the reality is that there have been recent studies, in fact our law firm has done some work on that, in our state constitution. It's a progressive era constitution, 1912, and it promises equitable public education as a pillar stone, as Senator Feldman pointed out, of a democratic society, and with a little d. And so there are some real inequities in the system, especially when you compare rural, urban, when you compare minority-dominated districts versus more Anglo-dominated districts. You just look at the differences, and especially in terms of capital. I mean, just take a look at La Cueva High School versus some other high schools in the district. So, so we're not as equitable as we need to be, and in my view, as the Constitution demands us to be. So things like a constitutional amendment of saying, why should we? I think it is a rainy day. So the idea of maintaining rainy day funds doesn't make a lot of sense to me now if we just preserve them ad infinitum. Because to me, right now, the economy in the state that New Mexico is in is a rainy day. And so we need to pump some more resources.
Sure.
Early childhood education was outside of the funding formula. So when we're talking about this money being pumped into education, we're not talking about early childhood education, which has had very, very little funding, but that's where the return on the investment is the greatest. So this is, I think, the reason for the constitutional amendment. And I think...
Let me ask you a question. I'll stay with you on this. Privatizations come up. We have a bill, Mimi Stewart and Tim Keller have come together to make sure that New Mexico education is in New Mexican hands, basically, or private, whoever owns these things. There's a lot of interesting things we talk about privatization. Who owns this? The Martinez administration says, let's take a look at this. Would you agree with that as well?
Would I agree with privatization?
But being careful about it and putting things in place to keep that from happening, as a matter of fact.
Well, the atmosphere today is almost like the Johnson administration when the big issue was vouchers, vouchers. And the legislature, I think, voted it down 3 or 4 different times. It was a non-starter. And, I think right now, and the compromise that we came up with was charter schools.
Right.
But the question now is, what kind of charter schools? Who owns the charter schools? Are they simply cyber academies with really no basis in the state and no experiential component, which is more worrisome to me than the ownership.
And it's like the taking up of the denials, Tom. You think about the early years of charter school applications, seemed like everybody got stamped off on a go get them. Now it's a much harder eye when you look at these things.
Yeah, I mean, the charter schools, I think, served a purpose because the public schools were not doing their job and really providing a diverse, kind of, education portfolio.
I want to step in on you just a little bit. I want to ask you about Mary Helen Garcia's bill about third grade retention. This is seems like an annual thing now, last 3 years. But interestingly enough, she's an ex-teacher, principal, administrator. She knows where she's coming from on this, and she supports the idea. Is this something that's going to get a different look because a Democrat is being positive about
absolutely.
this?
And this is what I love about it, is that, you know, she is a former teacher, you know, and for some reason for me, you know, bills when they're introduced by, you know, former teachers and the bill has to do with education has a little bit more, you know, oomph with me. Yeah. I like that idea, but you know the key part of the representative's you know, proposal is that it requires the parent involvement. You know, it has that sign-off portion that, you know, if all of a sudden the student is promoted, the parent actually has to sign off.
Let me really back in on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Part of the language of her bill is if the student's falling behind in 3rd grade, there is a chance for 4th grade, right, to petition the administration.
Yes,
you can get it. But what your point is, there's a contract, so to speak, the parent has to be able to sign and hold to.
Yes.
But that seems a little squirrely to me. Anybody can say anything at the beginning and then not do anything. All of a sudden, your kid's in 4th grade again. You won the fight, right?
Yeah, well, but you know, and so you know, you kind of push the issue of parent involvement.
Okay.
You know, the parent, when they go and actually sign it, if they actually gets to that phase, they know the light's on. That, you know, perhaps they need to step up. You know, the game, whether it is creating a learning environment that is a bit more conducive for their child, or maybe going to school and actually seeing what's going on. And maybe there are some parents who are actually, you know, doing that, but yet still, because some kids just aren't going to be able to, you know, have that capacity. At which point, you need to take a look at other options that are available.
Parent involvement. Touch on that a little bit too. That's interesting that you see this language.
Guy. I mean, I think it's a huge, one of the biggest issues I think that's been facing New Mexico all along is that we just don't have parents that are really active in their kids' education. It's a cultural issue. We need to fix that and make sure that education is taken seriously. And I think that's why the Democrats have actually now started to make this more of a debate by proposing their own bill. Like there's a what is it called? Create Reading First.
That's right.
And I think what it does is invite a real debate, because I think who disagrees with the idea that a 3rd grader needs to be able to read by the 3rd grade? I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But what's become, I think, almost partisan about this is that, well, you know, it has to be my way, which means that, you know, you can't promote them. I don't think Republicans and Democrats necessarily divide on that issue very cleanly, and I think it's time for there to be an actual debate about the solution. So I invite the idea that Mary Helen Garcia, a Democrat, is sponsoring this retention bill.
Does it fundamentally, I'm going to ask again, does that fundamentally change the argument having Mary Helen's voice in this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think it adds something as that a Democrat may actually say, look, I'm looking at it from another lens as maybe an educator.
Sure.
But I don't think it necessarily throws it over and say, oh, we're slam dunk, we're done.
No, she sponsored it last year, and it failed.
Exactly.
So I don't think that matters. And the alternative, of course, I think is sponsored by Mimi Stewart, who is actually a reading teacher. You know, and this is about reading in the early grades. Right. And I think the Democratic contention is, show me the money. You want good readers, you want readers by 3rd grade, then you have to have intervention programs, you have to have parent support, things like Even Start that bring the parents into the schools, and even parents that don't know how to read themselves, they get some tutoring.
But it's good that there's an alternative versus just saying no.
Right.
Yes.
Right, and I think that's what's been important.
Let me swing back to our APS guy. You have experience with class size. A little bit of a kerfuffle right now about class size. Your thoughts there? It's interesting how
you know, and it happened, you know, it's been going on for years.
Sure.
And, you know, you just need to, you know, focus on smaller class sizes, period. That's the only way that you're going to affect change. You know, the challenge is that APS, and I'm going to be critical of the Albuquerque Public Schools because there is such a large amount of administration. Sure, it's small compared to other districts of similar size, perhaps, but you know, let's just put more money into the classroom. Let's focus more on teachers. And you know, yeah, it's going to cost a lot of extra money, but you know, that's why there are different, you know, programs like, you know, the permanent fund solution, you know, provided by Senator Sanchez. Let's start, you know, really funding what needs to happen and reduce these class sizes.
John, let me give you a chance to weigh in on this as well. Go ahead.
I do think to some degree as a resources debate is that the partisan divide on education tends to be the idea that we can just solve it with some new policy solutions. So I think like Senator Feldman had it right when she's talking about, as I think Democratic Senator John Sabien has put it, kind of intervention rather than retention, right? I mean, if you're really going to get kids reading by 3rd grade, it's not just going to be a mandate from on high.
Yeah. That's
right. And to give Representative Garcia credit, I mean, I don't think she's just trying to mandate it. But I do think to some degree the governor has this very punitive attitude. It's all about holding kids back, or it's all about kind of punishment.
Was that the problem all along? The tone was a little harsh.
I think the tone is right,
and
it's a bad policy. I mean, you're not going to teach somebody to read by just saying, we're going to hold you back. Or you're not going to provide a parent involvement by kind of mandating a contract. It's going to require some real pedagogy going on.
Sure. Nice use of words there, pedagogy. I like that. You know, the final thought for me on this, you know, it's interesting. I'm going to start a sentence with, if Pauline Eisenstadt was still in the legislature, just to get your attention, and she watches, you know what she'd be talking about? Tablets, these things, for kids. She'd be talking about technology, because the science is so clear now about learning early, English as a second language, huge progress. The $50 tablet is coming. We have to get ready for it. But maybe next year. We'll see what happens. In a moment, the battle over water between New Mexico and Texas, and efforts to reform water use at the Capitol.